Hello everybody, and welcome to possibly the worst April Fool's game Gaijin has ever made. Yes, we're talking about the UFOs. And what I mean by the worst UFO, well, the worst game that Gaijin's made for this, for April Fool's, this style of gameplay, this actual game, this UFO mode, is both impressive and also incredibly dull. And what we mean by that is just the game itself is just so very buggy, well, it's so very broken, and it's not very fun. And that's a real problem. There's also no point in playing it because you don't get any silver lines for this. You don't get any sort of extra bits or goodies for it. You just basically just standing around, flying around in these ships at super high speeds, and you really don't get anything for it. And it just doesn't feel like there's any point in playing it. It's impressive showcasing the whole way the world works and showing that yes, underwater can work in War Thunder, and yes, we could get submarines, and yes, we could do this, and yes, we could have VTOLs, and yes, we could have all of this magical stuff coming into the game. But it's also incredibly boring and just not very fun to play. And with that, I mean, it's just like, if you look at the actual way it plays, it really just isn't very interesting, and the actual gameplay is really just sort of horrible. So I put to you that this is Gaijin's best April Fool's. Even though it's the worst April Fool's, it's their best April Fool's, because we always expect some really well high-polished gameplay that is extremely fun to play for April Fools. And this year we've got an extremely terrible, extremely boring, extremely hard to play, very poorly designed sort of game where you don't really, it's not really that much fun, and there's no real point to playing it because there's no special little features you get. You know, you don't get any rewards for doing this. There's no challenges involved. It's just purely well, it's just really not very fun, and it's such a shame because it's just like Gaijin has almost sort of just buggered themselves by making so many fun gameplay modes and games in the past with April Fool's events that this one is a bit just disappointing and just not really very interesting. Like, it's showcasing all of Gaijin's sort of work. You know, this basically is helicopters. You know, this is helicopters plus. You know, this is what it is. It's just helicopters, you know. And that's it. You know, like, that's the actual gameplay is just helicopters. But you see this dude here that's stuck in the road, for instance, you know, like, there is just stuff like this that just absolutely breaks the game, and it's just, you know, it's just not polished. You know, it's just not a polished gameplay, and right now I'm stuck now because I've got too close to the road. You know, they sort of it's a very cool looking thing, right? And yes, it looks fantastic. It's very shiny. It's kind of interesting, but at the same time, it's also very, very boring, because all you're doing every match is just this constant flying around with these lasers that are hard to hit with, because your controls are really, really buggered. Unless you actually go and really tweak them, they're nigh impossible to use. You know, it's just very, very poorly implemented, and to me that's problematic. It's just, you know, why implement this April Fool's event when it is just so poorly made? Now let's just go to hover mode right now, and now we've got this now we've got the railgun to use. We're basically a tank. But trying to aim this thing is impossible. You know, you just... If you hit with the railgun, it's great, but trying to hit somebody with it is impossible, and it does like no damage when you hit somebody with it. It just... What is even the point, isn't it? It's just terrible. It is just an absolute mess. A terrible, terrible mess. But as I said, this could be Gaijin's best April Fool's ever, because they fooled us into thinking that we were going to get something fun. That we were going to get something interesting and cool. And the way they built up this event, it looks like there was going to be something really special, and it was going to be this story-driven, impressive, fantastic, you know, very cool, brilliant gameplay, when in fact we've just got this extremely boring, repetitive nightmare of a game, which doesn't really have any fun it's fun for the first 5 minutes, and then it's just like, well, what's the point in doing this anymore? You know, like it's very... Why the hell am I playing this thing? Because it's just absolutely terrible. You know, and it is just that thing. It's just pretty terrible. Like, and it's a shame, because, you know, obviously there's been some real work and effort put into this mode. You know, but apparently I've landed. Let's just go to hover mode. Put hover mode on. And we've got a guy down there. And basically hover mode turns you into a tank, pretty much. But the trouble is it's extremely finicky to aim. And, you know, yes, it does a huge amount of damage when it actually hits, but trying to hit somebody with it is just so very bloody impossible, unless they're stationary. You know, it's a really, really badly implemented system, and yeah, they really have absolutely, you know, jumped the shark on this mode. Which is, you know, as I said, it's a real shame, because, you know, usually Gaijin are really good with this sort of this April Fool stuff, but this year they've really just not done anything interesting or fun. You know, one of the things that people were talking about was the fact that maybe Gaijilla was going to reappear, and that could have been a really fun event. We could have had Gaijilla reappearing and coming out of the water. Maybe that was what's going on at Green Hills, you know, which to me is just a Sonic level. You know, it's just you know, I very much feel like it's a Sonic level. You know, it's not a real place, but it's it's just so very, I don't know, it's just dull and just not very interesting. You know, like, what's going on with these hits? You know, like, it's hitting this guy, and last time it hit, it was an instant kill, but this time it's not going to be. So it makes no sense. But the other thing I want to talk about is the reward. So usually, you know, there's been like a little bit of silver lions or some form of reward dropped into this, and there is none. For playing this, you just get nothing. It's just a waste of time. You know, like, why? Why are we doing this? You know, what's even the point in playing this? And there is none. This is the whole thing. There is no point in playing this. And if we look at achievements, you know, usually they'll have something for special events and things like that. But there is no real thing this time. There's nothing. There's no sort of medals or even just achievements for it. You don't even get like a. You don't even get a sort of achievement for where am I going? Achievement. There's not even an achievement for sort of playing the mode. You know, you don't even get a bloody title for it. You know, it's just, what's the point in this mode? Why is it here? You know, and to me it makes no sense. I just think it's a failed April Fool's, and it's either the best April Fool's gag they've pulled because it's something that everybody was anticipating so much and so looking forward to, and it's turned out to be so terrible that, yes, that's a brilliant April Fool's gag because it's, you know, it's funny because, you know, haha, we made a terrible game mode, joke's on you guys. You know, that could be the gag. Or they've tried something and they've completely failed at it. You know, it's a good idea poorly implemented, and that's really all I can say on the mode. There's not that many people playing it now, and obviously it's quite late at night for the rest of the world, but everybody that's playing it is still just complaining about it and going, oh yeah, it's kind of okay. You know, that's the general consensus. It's like, oh yeah, it's kind of okay. When you first see it, when you first log in and go into it, you're like, oh my god, this is going to be amazing. And then when you actually play it, you're like, oh my god, this is the worst thing I've ever played. It reminds me very much of the first Naval beta, if you took part in that. When we took part in that, everybody was so amped, everybody was so hyped to play it. Then we played it, and then we realised how bad it was, and then we sort of gave up. It's that same feeling. It's not very well implemented. You know, if they had done something in the hangar, you know, they could have done some cool things in the hangar, actually making a new hangar mode for us. Like, and I would have appreciated that more than what they've done in the game. You know, because that map now is going to be, what, just thrown away? Like, is it going to be used? Like, it could be a really good map for combined forces. It could be a really interesting map for combined forces. Being a big city area, it's going to be very hard for helicopters to get in there. It would be really interesting in that respect. There's lots of water, so naval could get in there. You know, it could be a really good combined forces map. If that's what comes out of it, then it's kind of worth something. But for the moment, it's just a waste of time that the developers could have spent actually working on things more important, like balancing, like fixing the current issues, like fixing vehicles that are broken, like fixing bugs that are reoccurring, maybe actually making better game modes. You know, they could have spent this time where they're working on this gag actually implementing a better game mode for, say, bombers. You know, they could have made bombing more of an important issue. They could have done something like that. But instead, they've implemented a very poorly thought out, very uninteresting game mode that people are just like, meh, it's okay, it's forgettable. Next year we'll be going, oh yeah, remember last year? Oh yeah. People aren't going to be as excited next year for April Fools. You know, it's it's kind of taken the wind out of the sails, because people were expecting things like, you know, Su-27s, or even, you know, like the FA, what's it, F-16, FA, whatever, the new F-22 Raptors, you know, they were expecting that, you know, and that could have been put into this game mode where you're fighting alien airships. So the aliens, you're fighting them in actual modern aircraft. That could have been implemented. We could have had the submarines as well in the water. So you could have started out as a submarine and actually had to go along, and you could have had air-to-air missiles, sorry, ground-to-air missiles, and there could have been a test system for that bed, and that could have been really exciting. So you're on the Earth side fighting the aliens off. That could have been a really, really cool implementation of this, and that would have been an amazing April Fool's game, because it would have been stuff that we may be getting in the future, but also it's a fun game mode where you're fighting off aliens. And yeah, the aliens would have a massive advantage with their super weapons, but it could have been done really well, and it wasn't. It just simply wasn't. Then there are the other April Fool gags, well, April Fool's items, which are the things like the free Abrams, and the what was the other pack? The other pack is the Tiger pack, the Tiger pack, where you get the Tiger 2. So, you know, it's a decent pack to buy, because basically you're getting an $11 Tiger 2 SLA 16 and the M46 Tiger as well, for about $12, and you're also going to get the Japanese Tiger for that money, you know, which is absolutely worth it, because the Japanese Tiger is a really good vehicle to have in your lineup, especially when you get the Firefly and the Chai-Tos, because these things work very well in an up tier. These are fantastic vehicles in an up tier. The only disadvantage you got is you just lack AAA, but when you got that Tiger, it's a really helpful item, because sometimes you're actually facing against the Germans. So it's Tiger versus Tiger, and that's a really interesting battle. But it's a very useful tank for grinding up the Japanese tech line, because it's the only Japanese tank that has any sort of armor protection. So, you know, that's a decent thing to buy. The free Abrams pack, you know, is you get 13,771 Golden Eagles. That's a lot of Golden Eagles for, it's about $90 Australian, you know, but if you were looking to buy that amount of Golden Eagles, you know, it's going to cost sort of that much money anyway. You know, that's the amount of money it costs. You know, if you're buying that much, it's going to cost you that much. You know, so, you know, that's kind of a pack that is worth buying if you want to get the Golden Eagles. You also get the XM1, you know, which is a semi-decent tank. You know, it's just a very, very fast-moving, lightly armoured Abrams, basically. So, you know, it just, you get a free Abrams technically, and again, that's kind of worth it. You know, that's actually worth it for its money. But this event is absolutely worthless, and it doesn't give the community any sort of things to take away from it. The only thing that it really does is give us the thing of, like, maybe VTOLs are coming, but again, like, it doesn't even really implement much of that. It's more helicopter controls. So what are we doing with this? What's the point of this event? It just doesn't really make any sense. I'd love to hear what you think below. Give me a comment below. Also, feel free to join the Discord. There is a button below. And subscribe. Smash that like button. Comment and all of that crap. But yeah, if you like this video, please subscribe, because I do need subscribers, because I am a poor YouTuber that nobody listens to. Alright guys, until next time, this is me, Scree, out. Ta-ta.